today's episode, I have an exciting and informative conversation with someone very close to me. Besides being my father, his real estate investment strategies and business savviness provide a lot to learn from. Jose is the founder of J S Signet, a boutique real estate investment company where he has been investing in real estate since the 80s when he immigrated from Mexico with very limited resources. His conservative approach alongside value-add strategies are key components in how he has created his growth. All right, Dad.
Hello,
Well,
son.
I wanted to, I'm glad we're talking. This is kind of exciting because first off, it's always fun talking to you about business, but you're my father. You've been my mentor my whole life. You're a full-time comedian, and you have a lot to give, and that's sort of your nature. So, and there's a lot of wisdom in your success and the way you've paved the road to teach me and to help other people invest their money in real estate or just how to plan for their finances in the future. But before we get into strategies, how did you get your entrepreneurial spirit? Where did that come from? What was your first business venture?
I had the spirit probably since I was born, son. It's something that I was born with. I didn't know much about it. When I was a teenager, I used to enjoy very much music. And so I would, and I liked the electronics as well. So I got into buying and selling music systems in those days, amplifiers, speakers, turntables. So I would buy them and sell them and get other ones and sell them again. And yeah, that's how I started. My second passion at that time was cars. So I started working for a dealership where I wasn't in the dealership, but if I could bring a customer, I would get a commission. And I also had a couple of places where to sell their used cars. Okay. So I would also sell a commission.
Wow.
So I was doing that when I was 15, 16 years old.
But was it the money or was it the hobby or was it?
It was both.
Okay.
The money was very important because it's how I paid to take out your mother.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, the money was very important, but it was my passion as well. And it was my passion of being in business.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say it's how you would take mom out because I think the need for income, it creates a lot of that drive to that path to create something and to, generate cash flow.
Absolutely.
So
son.
that's that. So how would you say you got to where you are today from that? Because that's kind of a long stretch.
Life experience, son. I've been through a lot of things in my life. I was born in Mexico, raised there. My father was in the banking business, and also he had a small textile mill together with some partners, some family members. And I loved the bank. Mm-hmm. It was great. But then all banks were nationalized. They paid us very, very little money for the percentage that the family had. And that's the day that basically I decided to move to the States. I had to come to the States without knowing how things worked here because of the visa that I came with. I could not be employed. Mm-hmm. I had to start on my own. And so I started searching and looking for things. I have a very dear friend of Mexico who helped me a little bit with that because I was importing labels from Mexico. And then together with a couple of other very dear friends, I opened a very small car dealership in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Dallas went through a very, very bad recession. I thought that business that we were in was finite. I did not see the future in it, especially in those years. And so after shutting it down, which again, it's experience, failures are experience. And that's how I look at it. So after that experience, then I went into real estate.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I had two partners. I had one that was absolutely wonderful. He passed away. Wonderful gentleman, and he's the one who really brought me in. And then we got together with a con artist, unfortunately. And again, another bad experience, but that really taught me. It really taught me. In those years, I saw in Dallas was really in a depression in the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Real estate, the buildings were empty. People were going under left and right. Businesses were closing. In those years, the banking was just state banking in Texas. We didn't have the national banks that you have. So most of the banking industry also folded. So it was very hard on everybody. It was hard to keep doing business. It was the real estate that I got involved did not do very well. We kept it. I've never given a property back in my life. We got rid of the bad guy. I stayed at the end alone with it. And then I moved to Los Angeles, where I started a business with my cousin, David, which he really taught me a lot at the beginning. I have learned a lot in Dallas, but my cousin also taught me a lot of a different way of doing it.
A lot of people want to learn, but what is it that you learned exactly in Dallas? And
In Dallas, we were investing to get cash flow. We did not care for the appreciation.
Okay.
And when I came to Los Angeles, my cousin taught me about appreciation instead of cash flow.
Wow. Okay.
And I really like that idea because it's a very, very safe way to invest. When you invest like that with not a lot of leverage, you're going to be safe no matter recessions or whatever happens. So after my experience in Mexico about the bank being taken by the government or the banks, because it was not only ours, it was everybody else's bank, and the experience in Dallas with the depression, I just wanted to do things that were very, very safe.
Right.
And so fortunately, my cousin taught me about this. I learned, and I started doing exactly that. And fortunately, also, we've been very successful doing it that way because we bought very good properties, very low leverage. They have gone up in value throughout the years. And when we lose a tenant, because of the kind of properties that we buy, it's easy to get another tenant.
Yeah, I think what your experience in Dallas you went through, that really shaped your strategy. I didn't know that you were about cash flow initially, and then you went more for appreciation. That was your starting point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. What other things have you implemented in your strategies to weather the storm during a downturn or something, catastrophic like what happened in Mexico or Dallas?
Well, as you say, I'm kind of a jokester at times, so I call myself a professional chicken. So I'm a chicken to invest. I want to invest where I know that the chances of failure are very small. And that has been my business plan all along. And to keep the properties, transform them. I always try to look for something that I can transform. I buy great locations, and I'm patient. And it's not about the cash flow, it's about the appreciation. It's a different kind of business, but it is much safer.
How do you utilize leverage when you do that? Because you also talked about being low leverage.
Low leverage, what gives you is safety. If you want to grow and to grow bigger, leverage is a good thing. But leverage, it's a matter of timing sometimes. Leverage can also kill you. Because if you're over leveraged in a property and there's a downturn and you lose your tenant and you have to pay the mortgage, it can make you give the property back. Whereas if you have low leverage and you have some reserves and you do it properly, if you have a downturn, then you don't have a problem. You're strong and you you can weather the bad storm. And as you've seen, we've weathered here bad times in Los Angeles, in some of the properties, and we've never lost one, and the properties are doing very well. And so, again, it's being a chicken.
Yeah, no, I think one more thing too, and you might have touched on it, but was the negotiation standpoint that you have with tenants during the leases. If you're low leveraged, if they move out, they can't use it against you if you have a huge mortgage payment that you have to pay up while it's vacant.
Well, you touched in a very important point also in recessions or when things slow down. Usually, we've had a few large tenants in our portfolio. We still do.
Okay.
These companies sometimes, when there's a downturn, they want to use it as an excuse to renegotiate the lease or do something like that. Or you might lose a tenant. What happens when you're not leveraged and you have good stuff, good properties, well located, is that you're in control of your rent and not your tenant. And as you know, because we've lived it together, I've offered tenants who came with requests like that, if they wanted to break the lease, I would be willing to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid of what we have and the locations and the property.
Marketability. We're talking about commercial real estate, retail, high traffic or stores like that, not residential or multifamily or anything.
I like residential very much, son. In fact, you and me did a couple of things with residential. And also I love it because it's very safe. Residential is very safe, especially if it's well located, like the properties that we bought at one point. The problem is California went to rent control. And when you have rent control, it can kill your appreciation. And again, that's what I like.
Right.
I like appreciation with time.
Right.
We probably would have the safety of a tenant leasing because of the locations, but our appreciation would be killed with rent control.
And the control of the building.
Yes.
Because you can't take it over and really make improvements that you might want to make, or that you can't really make a property shine. And if your goal is to add value, it's hard to do that when you have to abide by a lot of these the restrictions on who you can have in your property and that sort of thing.
Well, it's difficult to get rid of a bad tenant. You can't. And then if it's a small property like the ones that we were buying, I mean, they were expensive properties for where they were, but you get only one tenant who decides to stay for life. He just killed your appreciation.
Right.
So, that's not part of our business plan. So that's when we decided to sell those, and we sold them at a very nice profit as well, and we traded for commercial.
Okay. Here's a question that I heard that I mean, you could probably go on for a while about this. How does intuition and your gut play into your investment decisions and into just into your plans?
To me, it's probably 95% of it. It's a combination between knowledge of the market and intuition. You have to know your market as well, and you have to understand the market where you're at. But intuition is very important because in a spreadsheet, son, you can put there whatever you want. I can make a spreadsheet that can look absolutely wonderful, but it's not real. I think it's your intuition, the way you're going to buy, how you're going to buy, and how you're going to transform the property. That's how you think you really can make it. And I think that's one of my biggest assets, that I have very, very good intuition.
So is your intuition supported by facts, or is it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, it is by facts because I know the market. I know what rents are. I know what's good property, what's bad. I know how can I transform it. I know how much it's going to cost to transform it. I know what rents we're going to get but not imaginary rents that a lot of people put in their
Right.
spreadsheets. I'm talking about market current rents of the moment.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's what I've seen you do. Okay. Um, so when it comes to sort of back to quality, buying quality assets because they're a little safer, how do you justify paying the price points that the market demands sometimes? Because in any market, downturn or upturn, quality assets are always going to be a lot more expensive than B locations or C locations. How do you justify the lower yield on those kinds of investments to buy? Is it just safety or?
No, it's a lot more than safety. You've lived with me to two properties. I'm going to mention them if it's okay with you. But we did an apartment building in Beverly Hills. It was a triplex. If I say the numbers, people that hear this are going to get shocked probably.
Yeah.
But we bought it at market at the time, but it needed a full rehab. We bought it at $1.9 million. Then we did a very extensive rehab, and our cost became around 3.6 after the rehab. And I knew we were going to get much higher rents. And as you know, I won a bet with one of our dear
Yeah.
friends and brokers.
Yeah, knowledgeable broker.
Yes, and I won the bet on him that we were going to rent for more, and we did because I do understand quality and I like quality. So when rent control came, we decided to get out of residential, and we sold it for $5 million.
Yeah.
So even though we could never really do our plan because we were planning to keep it forever for the next generation.
Right.
That was the plan. We still did very well with it.
Right.
So that's what I call safety. You take Carmel, which we traded that for Carmel. We knew the value because even though we were going to get a low return at the beginning, and we knew that, but we are transforming the building as it is. It's going to take us 3 to 4 years to finish the project. We still are in the black. I mean, we are cash flowing. But the building in 4 years, it's probably going to be worth probably 60 to 70% more than what we paid.
Yeah. No, that's incredible.
We knew that from the beginning.
Yeah.
That I had no doubt that that was going to happen. So to me, and this is very personal, it's the patience to buy and to find the right asset. That's where the profit is.
Right.
And that's where the appreciation is going to be. I imagine what we're going to do with the asset, and that's the gut feeling that you're talking about.
Right.
But I know my numbers as well. I know what the market rates are.
Yeah.
I understand all of that. So for me, it's not difficult, and I'm not afraid of pulling the trigger and buying something like that because I know we're going to do well.
That's actually, I think, one of your unique talents. A lot of people are scared to pay for a little bit more for a quality location and to be able to see the value that you could add. So what you're saying in a way is that with the, let's say, risk-adjusted basis, or like if you compare even quality locations, there's still a lot of value that you could create and appreciation that you could find in those assets. They're not, you have to be patient to find them, but the yield could be good. It's not necessarily a low yield unless it's fully rented for the long
Well,
distance.
you also get, to my point of view, I'll give you another example where Erewhon is here, our property. That property has transformed 4 times,
Yeah.
but it's always cash flow. It always yielded money. Every time we rehab, we might have a moment in time where it didn't cash flow for whatever reason, but the cash flow has increased exponentially while we owned it. And today it's a completely different property than the day I bought it.
Yeah.
And it's worth probably 5 times more.
Yeah. No, that property, it's incredible how the transformation, when it was a super crown and then Magnolia, and what Erewhon did to it, they made the building super I mean, that's what good locations do.
Yeah.
You want tenants come, they want to improve it, they want to make it their flagship stores, or they're willing to invest in those neighborhoods. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Also, when we develop some, take the example of Fidelity.
Right.
I probably spend, I'd say, 15% more of the cost of the building or 20% more to make a much nicer building and much more functional. That could be very diverse inside because it could be split inside very easily. I mean, I planned all that. And because of what we did, we landed a tenant like Fidelity.
Yeah.
And they've been our tenants since they opened, and they're going to stay with us for a long time. They've used the building in some of their commercials. And, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And we love them as tenant, and they love us as landlord.
Right.
So that was created by the combination of the location and the quality of the building.
How do you utilize, you see a lot of these syndication deals online, and they have these really high IRRs. Do you like using IRR? How do you utilize that metric in your business?
I don't use IRR because to use IRR, I have to plug in things that's going to happen in the future that I don't know that they're going to happen. I like to be incredibly transparent. We have a few partners in our deals, and I like to be super transparent. And I don't think you can be transparent enough when you're doing a long-term project for appreciation, because it's very hard to plug in your spreadsheet what our future rent's going to be. You can go through a recession, you can go through different situations. So it's very hard for me to plug in an IRR, and I've never done it, and I say that I've been successful almost in all the properties we've done, son. So IRR is not something that I do it. I might do it for my own self because I might plug some inflation or something to look at it, but that is not also the kind of property that I buy because I want to transform it. Now, you could do an IRR, for instance, in our property in Carmel.
Right.
Why? Because we knew the rents, and if you plug in those rents the way we bought the building, then you could do an IRR for 5 years. But after 5 years, I don't know what the market is going to do.
Yeah.
And I want to be absolutely transparent with my partners.
Yeah,
I don't want to promise things that I cannot deliver. I don't know.
Right. And also, in a way, you have to have an end date in order to do an IRR calculation. And that kind of is like, so one thing that I thought about for the long-term investment strategy, you could have one property for a long period of time, whatever long-term means to you, or you can have a lot of different deals and you could still be a long-term investor. What's the problem with doing a lot of little deals if that's how you want to create value?
It doesn't matter as long as the deals are good. It doesn't matter. You can make a lot of small deals. You can make one big deal, one big deal. It doesn't matter, son. It's just to be profitable. See, the people that have invested money with me are long-term investors. And I'm very open with them. I tell them we're not going for cash flow. We're going for appreciation. This is going to take time. And that's the kind of person that will invest with me. All of them are very happy. Some of my partners have been partners with me in different ventures for 40 years or 45 years.
Wow.
And that's what I want. I want exactly that. And it's all long term. Sometimes for different reasons, I want to sell. Carmel is one of them.
Yeah.
We had a partner in the Beverly Hills building.
Yeah.
And when rent control came, we decided to sell. The plan was not to sell.
Right.
And probably the internal rate of return, which I never made, was pretty good.
Right.
Because it was very short term. But it's not the purpose of what I do. For me, it's long-term investment with safety and appreciation.
Okay.
That's what I look for.
How would you give that advice for, let's say, a dentist or, somebody who's not a real estate savvy person? How would they start to invest if they have, $100,000 or $1 million? Because it becomes very difficult to find something at those prices.
Safety. That's what it is. It is safety. It's diversification of your portfolio.
Okay.
You mentioned dentists. You know that I have two brother-in-laws, which for me are like my brothers, because one of them was 7 years old when I started to date your mom, and the other one was 9. So one of them doesn't remember almost life without me being there. So they're my brothers.
Yeah.
And as you know, I'm pushing them to buy some of this kind of real estate. It's for safety, for their retirement, for their heirs as well.
Right.
Like in the case of Alex,
Right.
it's for their heirs, and it's basically safety.
How would they be able to, would you recommend that they partner with people, or how would you feel about that, partnerships and going into group crowdfunding or anything like that with people you don't know? Or if, there's so many deals out there that maybe they can't take down a $15 million deal, where like that would be hard for a lot of people. How do they get started if they can't get to that level?
To me, it's very important who do you invest with. Very important. I would never invest in one of those funds because a lot of people are going for the internal rate of return, the cash flow. The more cash flow you're looking for, the riskier the deal is. So I don't like to invest with that unless it's somebody that I really, really, really know. And you know who those people are. Because there's a lot of scams out there. So I like to see somebody who's got the experience, somebody that really knows what they're doing, and that they have the same philosophy as I do.
Right.
I would invest with somebody like that, but you have to be incredibly careful.
Right.
There are a lot of bad people out there or not knowledgeable people out there, and I would not put my money to risk with them.
Yeah, you actually talk a lot about being transparent, being honest, being even good news or bad news.
Whatever it is.
Is that because,
Are we on?
Are we on?
Oh, sorry.
Is it? No, it's fine. That's not actually something that's really that common. People are very easily would want to give you good news, but giving bad news and giving the bumps in the road, you're very quick at reporting that with your investors or your partners or anything that happens. Where did that come from?
That my father taught me that, son.
Oh, really?
That simple. My father was super honorable, super straight, always the truth. People adored him, and so I learned it from him. And as you know, most of my friends are like that, so it's not unique to me.
Yeah.
As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
So that's who I flock with.
Yeah.
And that's something that for me, my name, my reputation is incredibly important, not a little bit, incredibly important.
Reputation, and that goes into how do you view relationships? Because this business, a lot of it is relationships based, is reputation based. How do you view relationships and keep those relationships? You have a big heart, so everybody that you've done business with, you care about to a certain degree on a personal level. But how important are relationships to you, and why? And that?
To me, and I think you've heard me say this before, the relationship is more important than the deal.
Yeah.
The relationship is a lot more important. And that's why I have to be, not only because of me, because I'm the one who has to be happy with me. I'm the one who has to look at me in the mirror every day, and I have to be happy with that person. So it's very important to be transparent with my friends, with my investors, with everybody, because if not, I'm not going to be able to live with myself.
Right.
And I love people, as you know, and so it's not hard for me to do.
Okay. Here's a more technical question, and I wasn't sure how you were going to answer this. I don't know if you consider yourself, I mean, there's a word family office, but how do you get from being a mom and pop investor to being institutional, or what's the difference in terms of sophistication, in terms of, I mean, the capital requirements are going to be different, but why is a mom and pop or family office different than institutional or private equity?
I don't think it's different. It depends on your philosophy.
Right.
I don't consider myself institutional,
Right.
because it's really a family business. So I don't consider myself institutional. But it is, to me, it's the same. Like if I had ever wanted to go and raise more money to do the deals and get bigger and all that, it probably would have achieved it because of reputation, because of track record. So I probably would have done it. I didn't have an interest in that myself because of I enjoy the relationships very much.
Right.
And maybe that's one of the reasons why. It's not only the almighty dollar.
Right. So that's why you didn't want to grow into a bigger real estate company.
Risk as well, son.
Yeah.
Because to grow, either I needed to go out and look for more people to invest with me, or I had to leverage.
Right.
And I wanted safety. And that's why I kept it this way.
I think actually that's one of the main topics that I want to address with a lot of these conversations. It's the stability, the dependability of cash flow that if you get overzealous, a lot of people put their name on the line. They can lose everything if something happens or it goes wrong. And that's not the purpose of investing as a family office. I mean, it could be the strategy for a lot of people if they want to, but it's a different animal. And that might not be the goal of a lot of long-term investors that plan on passing wealth to the next generation and building something in a slow, stable, dependable kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, as you've also heard me say this before, son, I don't want to be the wealthiest guy in the graveyard. But I want to be one of the most liked guys in the graveyard. That I do want to be.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's why it's so important to me to do these things. And I will sometimes discourage an investor to invest with us. You know about one of them, I don't want to mention names, who was going to come into Carmel.
Yeah.
And I told him not to because I didn't think it fit his investing parameters.
Right.
And I was wrong because it did.
Yeah.
But I discouraged him of doing it.
Yeah.
And, he's done with me several deals and we are very close and he would do a deal with me in a second for that reason.
You've said actually that you should partner with people that have similar strategies and means and that could sort of be as flexible as you. Why is that something that people should care about?
Well, because of the philosophy of investment, son. If you are a person that's going to go for cash flow because you want a bigger return, because you need that money to live off every month, then I wouldn't be your guy. But if you want to put $1 that's going to be worth 3 or 4 in years to come, and you're going to get cash flow also, even smaller cash flow, then I would be your guy. So it all boils down to philosophy.
Okay. What was the hardest lesson you've learned in your growth? What made you nervous in your development as a real estate investor?
I can name you several. I don't mind the question.
I thought that was a question that you thought was too personal.
I don't mind. No, when you're transparent, you don't care about questions. And no, I had several that were very tough. When I was involved with the con artist, the con guy in Dallas, it was horrible experience. Horrible.
What did you learn from that?
First of all, I learned to be assertive,
right,
which I was not before that. And I came also with the way we used to do business in Mexico, which was completely different than here, where a handshake was worth more than 20 contracts.
Right.
Here, when you have a guy like that, that does not work. If you're with somebody good, like we have some good partners, it doesn't matter. But when you're with a bad guy,
Yeah.
that definitely doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I learned a lot with him. I learned a lot. I forgot to mention, when I was together with Murray in Dallas, I learned a lot with him. Bad experiences, I've had them big time, son. When we lost the bank in Mexico, it was almost like losing a family member. The recession in Dallas, when I had to close the dealership in Dallas. I mean, I can tell you many, many times where it was hard. But you learn, what I've always thought is every time you go through hard times or hard things happen to you, you can either grow or you can collapse. I'm a fighter. So I'm the mentality that the bad experience will teach me and I will grow.
Yeah. Well, you did teach me that.
Good.
What are your 3 key daily habits that you do that keep you sort of, that you feel have contributed to your success?
Love your mom. Truly. I am very blessed with my marriage. We met, she was 14 and I was 16. And I try just, again, to be sincere, to be transparent, to be upfront with everybody and try to do the best that I can and be careful. I'm very, very much into safety, Sam.
Yeah.
Because of the experiences that I went through. Very much into safety. And it's more important for me to be safe and not to lose the principle than, again, to be the wealthiest guy in the graveyard.
Right. Okay. Okay. Is there any last sort of advice that you would give people who are trying to invest and looking for real estate opportunities?
Be careful who you invest with and try to invest with the people that have the same philosophy as you have. Like we had partners who have invested with us that have exactly the same philosophy as we do. And that's about it. Be careful because there's a lot of bad stuff out there.
Okay.
So be very, very careful. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of you, son.
Thank you. I'm very proud of you, Dad. And that fighting stuff, you taught me to like it too. So it's always a fun journey to grow and to just navigate those choices. So, okay. Well, thank you. That's a wrap. Come meet us over at signetinvestments.com. There you'll have access to our full podcast and articles archives. Also, if you subscribe there, you'll get new updates sent straight to your inbox. You can also find us across all social media platforms. Our handle is Signet Investing. Thank you and invest wisely.